Welcome to the DIY van. This video we will be outlining a full assembly of our DIY van shelf kit. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you received everything in your kit. You should have 15 cabinet fasteners here and 2 truss head screws. And then make sure you have all of the cabinet components, which are outlined on the diagram here. The tools you're going to need for this project are as followed. A Phillips screwdriver, some sandpaper, 120 grit is ideal, but others will work, and wood glue, ideally Titebond 3, because it has a slightly longer open time, so it'll give you more time to get the assembly together before the glue dries. The last thing is a rubber mallet and a couple of nice additional tools that will help with the assembly. A small applicator brush for the wood glue, a electric drill with a Phillips tip, and some shop rags for cleanup if there's any excess wood glue. So those are all the tools. We're going to move some of these fasteners out of the way, and we're going to lay out our cab assembly to start a dry fit. All right, so once you've made sure you have all of your parts and got all your tools in order, the next step is going to be to lay out all of the wood cabinet components and to sand all the edges and faces. So with the 120 grit sandpaper, you're going to want to go through and sand all the edges inside these channels along the sides of the cabinet and any of the top edges and inside edges of the door faces and kind of cubby cutouts. Anything that you want. You can also sand the faces if you're going to be going for a higher finish on the plywood. Go ahead and sand those as well. So. When sanding the edges, make sure you use the sandpaper at just a slight angle and sand just to take off that sharpest edge. All right, once you've finished sanding and it's to your liking, so making sure all the edges are nice and smooth, all the main edges here have a nice little relief on them with the sandpaper so you don't have any sharp edges. You want to make sure that there's no debris inside any of these channels. So if you have any sawdust or any sort of material in there, make sure you go ahead and clean that out now. Once you're happy with that, we're going to do a quick dry assembly of the cabinet so we make sure we understand how it goes together. So once we're actually working with the glue, it goes together a lot easier. So our part A, our faceplate here, we're going to orient it with the large channel towards you. So the small channel will be at the top and the large channel here towards you. The next step will be to take the top plate. So the top plate is the wider brace plate here with a central channel down the middle with the 2 pilot holes that go through all the way through the top. So you'll take that component and we're going to slide it in to the top. And here we want to make sure that the channel here aligns with the central channel of part A, our faceplate. We're now going to take our center column here, our center brace, and slide that in here to the center. Make sure it's both tight to the top of our top plate here and nicely seated in the middle channel of the faceplate. Next part will be the base plate. So here on the base plate, we have our center channel here. And that is for the center column to slide into. So we simply take the center channel, line it up, and that should hopefully center our base plate into the face frame of the cabinet. Next, we're going to take our back plate, and you'll see that there are some pre-drilled holes in the back plate. We want those to be facing the rear of the cabinet. So it'll slide into this groove here, and the holes should be facing towards the back. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the cabinet up, makes it a little bit easier. and we're going to go ahead and set this right into the groove. Go ahead and make sure it's flush side to side. So make sure these edges here, nice and smooth and flush. Last thing we're going to do is put on our ends here. So these are the easiest way. You'll see on these end caps here, there's a small little biscuit, this little joint tab here in the channel, into the face frame here, and that's the alignment tab that keeps this from going up and down. So the easiest way I find to install these guys, start with the lower edge here, the lower channel on the face, on the side leg, kind of get it clipped on, and then rotate it up. And now here you'll have to make sure that the top plate and the back plate line in, and then lightly tap it for it to seat fully. Do the same on the other side. All right, and there it is. So making sure, so the dry fitment is just a quick assembly to make sure that you understand how each piece goes together. So when we actually start adding the wood glue, we're not trying to figure out which part goes where before the glue starts drying. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and break it apart, and we'll start adding in the cabinet fasteners for the full assembly. So the next step, we're going to take all of our cabinet fasteners, these brown fasteners, and we're going to remove all the screws from each fastener. So go ahead and take the screw out, and you'll just have this brown fastener. We're going to be working with this guy, not with the screws quite yet. Once they're all removed, go ahead and set all the fasteners off to the side, and they'll come back into play here shortly. So each of these tab fasteners, or cabinet fasteners, will be installed into the 3/8 inch hole in each of the components. So the push pin section here will now be placed into those holes. And you'll see there's 2 on the base plate. There's 2 on the top plate, and notice the orientation here. They will be facing forward, parallel with the central channel. So the screws will be parallel with that channel. Same with down below here. The screws will be parallel towards the front of the cabinet on the channel. You'll see there's 4 in the faceplate here, and those will be facing towards the outside of the cabinet. Lastly, we have 5 of these guys, of the cabinet fasteners, in the back plate. All right, so once you've gotten those all loaded in, there will be 2 extra cabinet fasteners just in case some of these get damaged when you're installing them with the rubber mallet. So you can go ahead and take those 2 and set them aside. Hopefully you don't need them. To install these guys, again, make sure all the alignments are correct, and you're just going to lightly tap these guys down, making sure they're sitting straight and fully seated onto the wood. All right, now that all your cabinet fasteners are in, we're going to start gluing and assembling each individual piece. So, same way we did the dry fit, we're going to do the same way on this assembly. So, we'll take our wood glue and we're going to place it into the top channel of our faceplate, the skinny channel. A light bead, don't need too much. It'll help with the cleanup after. Now, you can use a small brush for this. You can also use your finger or even a little shop rag if that's all you have. Go ahead and just make sure you got a nice even coating of wood glue in that channel. If you need to add a little bit more, go ahead and do that. We'll take our top plate and we'll slide it in. Make sure it's flush on the sides with the faceplate. Now here's where those fasteners are going to come in. So we're going to take 2 of those fasteners, the 2 screws with the cabinet fastener, and we're going to insert them into the cabinet fastener there. And now you will either be using your Phillips screwdriver, or I'm going to go ahead and use my electric drill here to tighten these. Next, we'll be installing our center support. We're going to go ahead and add glue into the center channel of the faceplate and into the channel of our top plate with those 2 pre-drilled holes there. Go ahead and slide that down and make sure it is tight to the top of your top plate here. We'll now take our 2 truss head screws and we're going to insert those into the top pre-drills of our top plate and screw it down into our center brace. Again, making sure this is nice and tight. Squeeze it towards the faceplate and make sure it's slid all the way up to the top plate. Next, we'll be installing the bottom of our cabinet. So we'll go ahead and set our back plate off to the side. And we are going to add glue into the lower channel of the faceplate. And don't forget to add the glue here into the center channel of our bottom plate as well. All right, so once you have the glue in both the center channel and the lower channel of the faceplate, go ahead and slide in the base plate. Now we're going to go ahead and add the screws into the cabinet fastener on the 2 center points here on the base plate. All right. Next, we will install our back plate. Remember to keep the cabinet fasteners oriented towards the rear of the cabinet. We'll go ahead and add a small amount of glue into that channel. Slide the back plate in. And ensure that the back plate is flush side to side with the base plate. Go ahead and add the screws into the cabinet fastener, going down into the base plate. Lastly, we're going to be putting on our side plates. So we're going to add glue into all the channels of our side plates. Start with one side, do all the channels, get this installed, and then we'll repeat for the other side. It's okay too, while you're putting the glue in all these channels, to get a little bit on that channel tab. That's totally fine. Even a little bit better if you even do coat that with some wood glue there. So. Once you got the side leg on, go ahead and insert the screws into the cabinet fasteners. There will be 2 on the back side of the faceplate. You can see the 2 here. There's a high one up here, high in the top corner, one here down the bottom corner, and then also one here in the back. All right, so once you've finished installing those screws and tightening them down, there you have it. You've just now finished the DIY van shelf kit. And when you're ready to finish, you can paint the cabinet, stain it, or do a clear coat. And keep in mind from some of those earlier steps, the finer grit sandpaper you use and the more time you take on sanding all the edges and faces, the higher quality finished product you're going to end up with in the end. So if you like the products, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and check us out on thediyvan.com. And remember, enjoy the process.